Yeah, it was something weird. It wasn't Viagra. It was something new that came up because they were going through the era of the steroid.
From the Honky Tonk Man to Ken Patera, wrestling legends have long questioned the official story behind Rick Rude's death. Even stranger, alleged footage and posthumous sightings later surfaced. In this video, we break down the mystery and examine the moments Rick Rude was supposedly caught on camera after his passing. Let's begin with the Honky Tonk Man. If there's one name that comes up more than any other when discussing the rumors surrounding Rick Rude's death, it's Wayne Ferris, better known to wrestling fans around the world as the Honky Tonk Man. The former Intercontinental Champion, who held that prestigious title for a record-setting 454 days, has never been one to shy away from controversy or speaking his mind in shoot interviews. Throughout his post-wrestling career, Honky has built a reputation for being brutally honest, some would say too honest, about the inner workings of the wrestling business and the personal lives of his colleagues. And when it comes to Rick Rude, the Honky Tonk Man has had plenty to say over the years. In various interviews, most notably during a 2015 appearance on Hannibal TV that sent shockwaves through the wrestling community, Honky put forward what can only be described as the most extreme and sensational version of events surrounding Rude's passing. According to his account, one he has repeated with remarkable consistency across multiple platforms, Rick Rude was suffering from erectile dysfunction, which Honky attributes directly to years of heavy steroid abuse throughout Rude's wrestling career. According to Honky, this wasn't casual use, but prolonged and extreme abuse that took a devastating toll on Rude's body in ways the public never saw. This is where the story takes a turn that sounds like something straight out of a horror movie. And it's important to understand that these are claims Honky Tonk Man has made on camera. He has stated that in an attempt to combat these intimate health issues, Rick Rude resorted to injecting substances directly into his penis, a form of penile injection therapy. Honky referred to this as injectable Viagra, though that terminology isn't medically accurate. The treatment he was likely referencing involves drugs such as papaverine or alprostadil, which are legitimate medical treatments for erectile dysfunction but carry serious risks when not administered properly under medical supervision. According to Honky's version of events, something went terribly wrong. He claimed Rude developed a severe infection, one so serious that doctors allegedly told him amputation would be necessary. Consider that for a moment. Here was a man whose entire wrestling persona was built around being the most desirable, sexually appealing figure in the business, the ravishing one. The man who made women swoon and men seethe with jealousy. And now, according to this account, he was facing the loss of the very thing that defined his masculinity. Honky has argued that the psychological devastation of receiving such news pushed Rick Rude into a deep depression, ultimately leading to what he believes was an intentional overdose. In other words, suicide, not an accident as the official report stated. The implications of this claim are staggering. It suggests not only that the official cause of death was wrong, but that there may have been a cover-up, or at the very least, a collective decision to spare Rude's family and the public from a horrifying truth. Now, it's important to acknowledge Honky Tonk Man's complicated reputation within the wrestling community. He's known for being outspoken to a fault, for embellishing stories, and for having strained relationships with many of his peers. As a result, many in the wrestling world have dismissed his claims as unreliable hearsay, locker room gossip that grew more outrageous with each retelling. But regardless of whether you believe his account, there's no denying that his words have shaped the conversation around Rick Rude's death for more than 2 decades. The ripple effects of Honky's claims have been immense. They've been debated on wrestling forums since the early days of the internet, dissected in YouTube comment sections, and even inspired investigation videos by creators like Justin Wong, whose exploration of the bizarre urban legends surrounding Rick Rude's death garner hundreds of thousands of views. Whether true or false, Honky Tonk Man's on-camera statements have become an inseparable part of Rick Rude's posthumous legacy, for better or worse. Next, we turn to Ken Patera. When discussing Rick Rude's death, Ken Patera's credentials are beyond reproach. An Olympic weightlifter who competed for the United States and held multiple world records, Patera was a legitimate world-class athlete long before he entered professional wrestling. When he transitioned into the business, he became a major star in his own right, feuding with the biggest names of the era. When Ken Patera speaks, people listened. In a 2020 interview with Hannibal TV, Patera shared information he claimed came from someone extremely close to the Rude family, Jim the Anvil Neidhart. Neidhart, Bret Hart's brother-in-law and a longtime wrestling veteran, was deeply connected within the industry and known as a straight shooter. According to Patera, Neidhart told him that Rick Rude lost his mind upon learning the full extent of his health issues and the drastic medical interventions he faced. A phrase that paints a haunting picture of complete psychological collapse. That's worth noting that this information is second or even third-hand, which naturally requires skepticism. Wrestling has long been a breeding ground for exaggerated stories passed along locker rooms and road trips. However, what gives Patera's account added weight is that he went on camera and attached his name and reputation to it, fully aware it would live on forever. In an industry where reputation is everything, that matters. Finally, we arrive at Jake the Snake Roberts, a man whose connection to Rick Rude ran far deeper than casual acquaintance. The two shared one of the most intense and memorable feuds in WWF history during the late 1980s. Their rivalry blurred the lines between reality and storyline in ways rarely seen before or since. This was deeply personal, emotionally charged, and unforgettable. The feud famously involved Rude airbrushing the face of Jake's real-life wife, Cheryl Roberts, onto his tights, an unprecedented and controversial move. The storyline escalated when Rude kissed Cheryl on camera, leading to a legendary incident in which he slapped Rude so hard it reportedly ruptured his eardrum, an unscripted moment fueled by real emotion. Because of this history, when Jake Roberts went on camera to discuss Rick Rude's death, people listened closely. Every word carried weight.
It was something weird. It wasn't Viagra. It was something new that came up because they were going through the era of the steroids. And I never did steroids. I was 245, 50 pounds in my prime. And because I already had a name and tons of heat, it wouldn't do me any good to take steroids. I waste money. I hate needles. And, I was already over, so why bother? And again, I hate needles and injecting. I never got a flu shot, never got the flu. But Rick was into a lot of steroid abuse. And there was something else. I can't remember the name of this product that came out because steroids were starting to get heat. In the old days, people really didn't pay much attention to it, but then it became illegal.
Human growth hormone, I think you might be thinking of. Because
maybe that's it, but I know that whatever it was that Rick Rude was, if you knew Rick, if it said take, 1 teaspoon, he'd drink half the bottle. Rick was a little out there. But yeah, he overdosed on something, but I really can't remember the name of that stuff.
Jake, like the Honky Tonk Man, has suggested in interviews that Rick Rude's passing may have been connected to depression stemming from health complications related to steroid use, including erectile dysfunction. Jake's perspective adds another important layer to the narrative that circulated within wrestling circles, lending credibility through the sheer number of individuals who have echoed similar sentiments. However, it's worth noting that Jake does not delve into the same graphic detail as the Honky Tonk Man regarding specific medical procedures or the possibility of amputation. Instead, he speaks more broadly about the situation and the physical and psychological toll that the wrestling lifestyle takes on its performers. What makes Jake's perspective particularly poignant is his own very public and well-documented battle with addiction and personal demons. If anyone in the wrestling business understands the dark side of the industry, the toll it takes on the body, mind, and spirit, it's Jake the Snake Roberts. He lived it in ways most people could never imagine, surviving experiences that brought him closer to death than anyone should ever have to endure. His long road to recovery, chronicled in films like Beyond the Mat and the acclaimed documentary The Resurrection of Jake the Snake, has inspired countless individuals struggling with addiction, depression, and self-destruction. Diamond Dallas Page's role in helping Jake get clean and rebuild his life became one of the most heartwarming stories in modern wrestling history. Because of that, when Jake speaks about a fellow wrestler potentially succumbing to the pressures and health consequences of the profession, his words carry undeniable weight. He isn't speaking theoretically or academically. He's speaking as someone who stood at the edge of the same abyss and somehow managed to pull himself back. Jake's contribution to the discussion surrounding Rick Rude's death is less about specific medical claims and more about painting a vivid picture of the environment wrestlers of that era faced daily. The relentless travel. The pressure to maintain a certain physique. The easy access to substances that dulled pain or enhanced appearance. Together, these factors created a perfect storm, one that claimed far too many lives far too young. When Jake the Snake Roberts reflects on Rick Rude, you're hearing from someone who competed against him at the highest level, understood the pressures because he lived them himself, and bears both the physical and emotional scars to prove he isn't speaking from ignorance or speculation. His perspective adds an emotional depth to the conversation that pure rumor cannot replicate, reminding us that behind every wrestling persona, every character we cheered or booed, was a human being grappling with real struggles long after the cameras stopped rolling. Our fourth individual to go on camera addressing the circumstances of Rick Rude's death brings a slightly different, more nuanced perspective, Larry Zbyszko. The self-proclaimed living legend has enjoyed a multi-decade career encompassing nearly every role professional wrestling has to offer. He has been a main event wrestler, a commentator calling action for millions, a booker shaping storylines behind the scenes, and just about everything else imaginable in the industry. He's worked alongside legends, created unforgettable moments, and earned the respect of his peers through decades of dedication. When Zbyszko sat down to discuss Rick Rude in a YouTube interview that has since circulated widely among wrestling fans, he offered a more measured take, one that avoids sensationalism while still suggesting that something was deeply wrong in Rude's final days. In an interview that remains publicly available for anyone to verify, Zbyszko was asked directly about the rumors surrounding Rick Rude's cause of death. His response is worth examining closely, as it acknowledges serious underlying issues while stopping short of fully endorsing the more extreme versions of the story told by others. Rather than paraphrase or ask you to take my word for it, it's important that you hear it directly from him, in his own words.
Here from thehannibaltv.com. One of my favorite wrestlers of all time is WWE Hall of Famer Rick Rude, and he certainly died far too young, around the age of 40. There's a lot of mystery related to his death, and somebody randomly sent me the police report, an autopsy report related to his death, because many wrestlers, including the Honky Tonk Man, Ken Patera, the Berserker, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, and Jake the Snake, have alluded that it may have been an intentional overdose due to some issue with his penis that stemmed from some type of penile injection therapy gone wrong. Now,
what stands out most about Larry Zbyszko's account is how he describes Rick Rude's personality. His comment that Rude was the type to drink half the bottle if the instructions said take 1 teaspoon offers rare insight from someone who actually knew him. It paints a picture of a man who went all in on everything, not just in the ring, but in life. That trait can be admirable, but in the context of substance use and medication, it's dangerous. What makes Zbyszko's testimony compelling is his honesty. He admits he can't recall the exact substance involved and refuses to speculate. Unlike others who claim certainty, he acknowledges the limits of what he knows. Zbyszko confirms that Rick Rude had serious issues but stops short of endorsing the most extreme rumors about amputation or suicide. His account occupies a rare middle ground, suggesting the truth is likely more complicated than either the official story or the wildest theories suggest. Hannibal. Now we come to what may be the most detailed and forensic on-camera examination of Rick Rude's death. Devin Nicholson, better known as Hannibal, has built a reputation not just as a wrestler and promoter, but as an investigator of wrestling's darkest controversies through his Hannibal TV YouTube channel. His platform is known for candid shoot interviews and deep dives into topics mainstream media rarely touches. What sets Hannibal apart is his claim that he obtained and reviewed official documentation related to Rick Rude's death, not hearsay, but actual police and autopsy reports. In a widely viewed video, Hannibal states that these documents were sent to him anonymously, and he proceeds to examine them on camera, presenting what he describes as previously undisclosed medical findings from the investigation.
Some severe physical issues that it looked like WWE and WCW weren't going to take the liability of signing him to a wrestling contract. Due to that, he seemed to have a great family. His son just did an interview with Jack Kilby on the Great North Wrestling Podcast. The link to that is in the description.
According to Hannibal's on-camera review of the autopsy, the medical examiner documented findings that appear to support some of the long-circulating rumors. The report noted multiple scars on the shaft of the penis, palpable fibrotic tissue, and diffuse scarring at the base. The testes were described as atrophic, meaning shrunken, a condition commonly associated with long-term steroid use and one that can severely affect hormonal balance and sexual function. Hannibal also states that police reports listed empty bottles of Endocet, which contains oxycodone, Ambien, a sleep medication, and Amoxil, an antibiotic, found near Rick Rude's body. This combination suggests someone dealing with chronic pain, sleep issues, and an infection simultaneously. The presence of the antibiotic is particularly notable given earlier claims by other wrestlers that Rude was suffering from a serious infection. Hannibal's video, whether you accept his conclusions or not, connects long-standing rumors to actual documentation. The autopsy findings suggest Rick Rude underwent medical procedures, but scarring alone does not prove claims of infection, amputation, or suicide. Even Hannibal acknowledges that those conclusions go beyond what the documents confirm. The most authoritative rebuttal comes from Bruce Pritchard. A longtime WWE insider, Pritchard addressed the rumors on his podcast and firmly denied them, calling the suicide and amputation stories false. He stated that he spoke directly with Rick Rude's widow Michelle, who confirmed Rude died from an accidental overdose related to pain medication taken for chronic injuries and a recent car accident. While some question Pritchard's objectivity as a company man, his account remains the closest thing to an official explanation. And with that, we reach the end of the story.